Hi folks, welcome to Pepe Learning. In this video, you're going to learn about custom type usage in functional interface. What is a custom type? Ideally, when you're creating an application, you create an application based on domain. Let's say telecom domain, banking domain, insurance domain, retail domain, etc. So each of these domain have specific names. Now let's take an example. Let's say if I want to have an employee management system where employee is specific to a domain. So in Java, you call this domain as class names. So we ideally call it as bean or POJO, plain old Java object. Now in this video, we are going to understand how to use a custom types in the functional interfaces. Let us see a couple of programs and review it again. I have opened a workspace in Eclipse and which got a project called Java 8. I'm going to create a class called function usage. I right click on an existing package and create a class. I would like to name the class as function usage, and the package name I would like to give is com.pp.j for java 8.fun.interfaces.usage and say public static void main because it's a demo class. Now here I've deleted the auto generated code. I would like to use function interface. So here I use it as function and the input type is integer and the return type should be employee. I call it as EMP service, which means employee service. Ideally, do we have a class called employee? No. So that's the reason the compiler is showing an error. Let us try to create this employee. I right click on this usage package, new class employee. The moment you create this employee class, you can see here in the functional interface, that means functional usage, the error is gone. Now let us try to quickly add couple of fields to the employee. So I go here and add couple of fields: integer employee ID, string employee name, string employee department. Now here you should be having getters and setters along with default constructor and fields constructor. I right click on this, source, generate getter setters, select all, say OK, and I go little above, right click on here, source, generate constructor using fields, say OK, and right click, source, generate constructor from superclass, say OK, delete here the to do line and Control Shift F is for format, save it. Now my employee class is ready. Now before I implement employee service, I need to have some employee seed data because I'm not connecting with any database. For that reason, in the function usage class, I go ahead and create something called a map. This map will take parameter as integer ideally, which is a key, and the value is employee. I call this as employee data equal to new hash map. So employee data, I want to add some data. For this reason, I'm going to use static block, and any information that you want to add in the static block, the variables should be static. So for that reason, I mentioned this as a static, and I say employee data dot put, and the key is 123, and the value is new employee 123, and name is Shyam K, and the department is engineering. I'd like to add one more employee, so employee data dot put, so this time it is 456, which is new employee, and this time it is employee is 456, call it as Krishna K, and which is operations. So now my seed data is ready. Now let me try to complete the functionality here, employee service. So let me make it big so that you can see the complete code. Employee service equal to, I'm using lambda here, open parenthesis, separator, and implementation. Here the input parameter is integer, so I call this as employee ID, and return type is employee. So I go ahead and say in the implementation, so return, I'm using EMP data here, so I call it as employee data dot get. I pass this employee ID. So now when you pass this employee ID, you're going to get employee object. So I call it as employee service dot. It got a method called apply and I pass it here 456. So when you call this apply, it is going to give us employee object. So I call it as employee, say employee info equal to, I go ahead and call sysout employee name for the ID which is off, anyway it is hard coded 456, is plus employee info dot get name, get employee name. So when I execute this, I right click, run as Java application, employee name for this ID which is 456 is Krishna K. So this is how you can use your custom classes or POJOs or beans in any of the functional interfaces. So this is an employee service, you pass an employee ID and it returns you employee object. So here it is a input type is integer, input type parameter is integer and return type is employee. Let us see quickly one more. I right click on this usage, new class. I would like to name the class as consumer usage, where I'm going to use consumer functional interface. Here I'm going to add consumer. As we are aware, consumer takes a parameter but doesn't return anything. So this here, I call it as the input parameter as string. I would like to name it as, let's say, state service. So what do I mean here is, I pass the state code as a string. I'm printing the state information because consumer does not return any value to us. So let me prepare seed data. For that, I right click on the usage package, new class state and say finish. State got, let's say, string state code string country name string cities. Let's say these are the three fields which is there, and I go ahead and try to add getter setters. I right click here, source, generate getter setters, select all, okay, and go above after the cities and try to add constructor. Right click, source, generate constructor from superclass, say okay, which is empty constructor, and generate one more which is fields constructor, say source, generate using fields, say okay. Now we have all the required things, which is two constructors and getter setters. Now let me go and create some seed data here in the consumer usage. So I call it as map, which takes key as string and value as state. Okay, I call it as state data equal to new hash map. I'm going to use the same process. I'm using static and using a static block where state data dot put, to add the information, I call it as KA for Karnataka, and I want to use here new state, and here the state code is KA and country is India, the city is Bangalore. So let me make this class big so that we can see more lines, and I'd like to add one more. Let's say I make it as AP, new state, which is AP stands for Andhra Pradesh, which is in India, and I call it as Amaravati and Vizag. Now my data is ready. Let me try to complete my state service. Here I'm implementing the lambda state service equal to parenthesis separator and implementation. In the parenthesis, it is going to take a string, which is, I can call it as state code, and here sysout, we're going to just print out, we call it as state data dot get, and we call state code. Now here it's going to print state code when we call it as state service dot state service. There is a spelling mistake, which is state service dot accept. I'm passing here as AP, and when I execute this, I right click, run as Java application. Now you see the hash code of the state object. Now we want to see the data, not hash code. For that reason, I go to the state and I want to override toString. So after my fields, I right click on this. So here I would like to generate toString. Whatever was selected, use as it is and say OK. Ctrl Shift F for format, save it, go back, right click on the application, run as Java application. Now you can see state code is AP and country is India, which got Amravati and Vizag cities. To review, we can use our own classes as part of the functional interfaces parameters and return types. Majority of the times, the built-in functional interfaces are sufficient to address your business logic or business use cases. When the existing functional interfaces does not meet your expectation, you can create your own functional interfaces. Please refer the documentation for more information. Thanks for watching.